Many developers working with database management systems know that sometimes they need to delete data. This is why we see options like empty or drop within SQL clients like phpMyAdmin or similar. These options actually run SQL queries on your database. So if we click one of those options, we will see that the empty table option runs a truncate query on your table, and the drop option runs a drop table query on your table. These two queries differ, but they also are kind of similar, and this is what we're digging into now. To begin with, to delete rows from a table in a relational database, you need to navigate to a certain table, then click the delete option. The delete option will execute a delete from query and delete all of your data for you. The delete query looks like this. We say delete to specify the option we want to take from certain table, from our table, and then we use the where clause to specify what we want to delete. So for example, if we want to delete everything pertaining to an ID of 25, we will execute a query like this. This query will delete all data pertaining to the row of ID 25. So this will delete the Pontiac row. If we execute a query like this, we will see that the row would be gone. We'll see that 24 and straight we have 26, so the 25th row is gone. So the delete query works like this. We want to specify a delete option from a specific table where a specific condition is met. And if that specific condition is met, that specific row or rows will be deleted. We can also refrain from specifying anything. For example, if we run a query like this, just delete from cars, we will see that we have 6001 records now. And if we execute a delete from cars query, phpMyAdmin will warn us, do you really want to execute delete from cars? If we still execute the same query, we will see that we have 6001 rows affected, and if we refresh the table, we will see that there's absolutely no rows left, and that's because MySQL or our SQL query has deleted everything in a table. So in other words, delete from without any where clause deletes all rows in a table. If we re-import data, we see that we have 6002 rows again, and if we want to delete every row once again, we can also use something like this. We can say truncate and then specify our table name without any additional options, without anything. If we execute such a query, phpMyAdmin will warn us once again. It keeps warning us because such types of queries delete every row in a table. If we say that we want to truncate our table named cars, our SQL query will also execute in milliseconds, mind you, and also delete every row in our table. That said, there are a couple of things you should keep in mind. If you want to delete millions upon millions of rows, delete from isn't for you. Delete from isn't for you because if you execute a query like this, deleting tens of millions of rows from a table, you will see that the query never ends. It will never end because it will delete rows one by one. If we keep refreshing, we will see that the rows in the table getting less, less, and less. And the rows in the table will be deleted, but it will take a lot of time because rows will be deleted one by one. If you have millions of rows, use truncate table. If you don't, opt for delete. Now at the same time, if we run a truncate table on a table that has millions of records, truncate demo table, we will see that our table has 16 or 15 million records, and once we truncate it, you will see that the query takes milliseconds, 0.4 seconds, and once we refresh the table listing, all rows are now gone. Now that you have deleted every row in a table, you may need to destroy the entire table itself. You can do that by running a drop table query. Drop table and then table name, that's exactly that. We can see that if we execute this, we see that the query drop table demo table is being run. So it doesn't matter if we run an SQL query like this or we drop the table through phpMyAdmin, the results will be the same. So if we execute this query, we will see that our table is now gone. So delete deletes specific rows that you specify. Truncate table truncates or deletes all rows in a table, and drop table drops or deletes the entire table altogether. Now there is also a specific clause that you can employ called if exists. For example, if you run a drop table query and the table doesn't exist because we just dropped it, we will return an error saying unknown table demo table. Demo is the database name and the demo table is our table name. So for the database not to return such errors, we need to specify if exists. What this will do is force our database to check whether this table exists before dropping it. If it does not exist, nothing will happen. If it exists, it will be dropped. So even now that our table doesn't exist, we can still run and execute this query and get no errors. Just a note that our table is not existing. One last thing that I need you to keep in mind is that you can execute the delete query together with a limit clause. So here we tell our database that we want to delete data from the cars table and limit ourselves to the first 5 rows. If we execute this one, we will see that we have 5 rows that have been affected, and we will see that the first 5 rows should now be gone. With this, you can limit the amount of data that you delete, but be careful to specify the delete query like this. We need to specify the table and then the limit clause and then a singular number. If you specify, for example, a number, a comma, and then a number, hoping that your database will delete the first 10 rows, it won't work like that. You can see that we have an error in our SQL syntax. So if we want to delete a limited number of rows, we use the limit clause. And we specify one number after specifying our table and the delete query. I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you found this useful and entertaining. Share it with your friends, and until next time.